right, so trustless interoperability is going to be the name of today's episode and the main topic that I'm going to be talking about with Federico. He's one of the earliest Cosmos contributors, especially for IBC interoperability and also connecting the Ethereum virtual machine to Cosmos. So I'm really excited to be talking and learning from you. That's the whole purpose of this channel as well, to educate ourselves. And I'm learning so much from all you guys. First things first, thanks so much for taking the time. How is everything going?
Well, good. Thanks, Michael, for having me. And I appreciate being on your show and excited to talk about like all things EVM and Cosmos in particular.
Yeah, I love that, because I think the whole purpose of Cosmos is also to build this internet of blockchains, right? And it requires obviously to build seamless, trustless bridges with other ecosystems as well. But before we get into all these details and things, can you give maybe a 2-3 minute rundown and context of what you did before joining crypto, how you got into crypto, and also how you found Cosmos eventually?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I basically started like fresh out of college into Cosmos, and especially like into Tendermint Inc., which is OM Bits. Before that, I was like before like me diving into crypto, I was more into AI and deep learning. So I basically was working on some research projects, doing neural nets, training algorithms for deep learning in particular. And so I started in Chile, and then I was part of exchange semester of UC Berkeley, where I joined Blockchain at Berkeley, which is a student organization that focuses in education, research, and also consulting for different companies and for the whole ecosystem. I was there during 2017, so it was like really, really busy. And that's how I got involved in blockchain. I met Sunny, who is now leading the Osmosis team and has been working for a long time in the Cosmos ecosystem. And I happened to meet my co-founder Akash, who I'm working right now on Ethermint through Tharsis, which is a company that we founded to work on it. And I was also introduced to Jay and the rest of the Tendermint team that was by then started to working on the Cosmos implementation. Before, they were working mostly on the Tendermint side, on Tendermint core, the consensus algorithm that now all the chains running on Cosmos are using. So yeah, I was pretty much fortunate to be in the right time and in the right place to be able to meet all the Cosmos people early on in 2017. And that's how I got involved with the team and eventually like started working on as an intern on the Gravity Bridge, which was called before Peggy. So I was working there on the smart contracts back in 2017 and 2018. And then I migrated to the Looney wallet, which formerly was called Voyager, to help build like all the ledger integration of the governance, like basically the first UI. And then afterwards, after they split up, I decided to stay at Tendermint and work as a core engineer on the Cosmos SDK on IBC for the next 2 years. Help ship IBC, help ship Gaia, and the rest of the Cosmos Hub and all the Cosmos SDK features with the help of the rest of the Tendermint team, and then through Interchain GmbH as a contractor. And I was also contracting with ChainSafe for the past year as the lead engineer working on Ethermint. And then afterwards, I left to work full time and build a dedicated team that could work on making this project that has been long-standing again, and in early development for a long time, to ship it and make it available for the community.
Yeah, it sounds like you're the right guy to talk about interoperability and also the Gravity Bridge and IBC, because that's all very, very exciting stuff right now, as we actually see it already in action, right? I mean, IBC especially through osmosis, they gained a lot of adoption. I think over 30K active users in the first month. Lots of transaction routing through IBC. So that's really cool to see. But before we get into details and also into details on what you do with Tharsis and Ethermint, and also details and current stage of the project, what is your general? I mean, you kind of like recognized interoperability as one of the most important things a couple of years ago, right? Like in 2017, 2018, probably, because you have worked on it. So how do you view the importance and significance of interoperability as in cross-chain compatibility, the multi-chain future? How important do you view this, and how far do you think we are in general, like on a macro trend in the crypto industry right now?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So initially, how the vision that Cosmos had is how to scale blockchains in the sense that it's not only scalable vertically, so like maximizing transactions per second, but how to also scale horizontally. So like boundless scaling through horizontal and intercommunication between different blockchains by executing transactions in a trustless manner without having to have any centralized party, or any centralized bridges. And that was the whole concept of, okay, we now have this core component, which is Tendermint, which gives us all the security and the security guarantees of a BFT consensus algorithm that is production ready, has been battle tested. But how do we also scale, besides this horizontal scalability, besides this vertical scalability, how we scale horizontally across different blockchains that may not be necessarily trusting each other? So that was the premise of Cosmos initially, and how the IBC and the initial Cosmos white paper came into existence. And in general, so the IBC component is very special because it enables transport, authentication, and ordering of different types of packets between chains. But this only works for chains that prioritize safety over liveness. So chains that have fast finality, as opposed to probabilistic finality or Nakamoto consensus that Ethereum and Cosmos uses. So for chains that we share the security and the fast finality, like all the chains that run on Tendermint or other BFT algorithm, we can use IBC. But for other chains, we need to have a so-called like a pseudo finality or something that we know that we can eventually slash through cryptoeconomic algorithm mechanisms. So for example, the concept of the gravity bridge or the initial PEGI design said like 100 block for pseudo finality. So we were saying like, okay, like initially we're consider this block final after 100 block have passed and have been built on top of the initial block that the transaction was executed. But then that migrated to a model where the block where the same validators were the one running the relayers or the orchestrators are, as they call them. So we now every validator that's just running the same process is also slashable in case they don't relay. So if we have more than 2/3 of supermajority of the signatures from the validator set, we know that it's safe to relay those events or those or like safe on the in a very very high level to the other chain that is not running probabilistic finality. So that's how the design of the Gravity and the Tendermint chains currently works under this assumption.
And how do you? So I mean, there's currently a lot of bridges also from other projects already live, right? Yeah. Also to wrap Bitcoin, for example, on Ethereum network. Can you differentiate a little bit between the current landscape of bridges that we have and also what Cosmos tries to build? How does it differentiate? And because Cosmos bridges are like taking a long time, right? I mean, you guys have been working on Gravity Bridge for long, but and I think a lot of people get impatient about it. You know, that question like, oh my God, how can Red Bitcoin already be live and the Gravity Bridge not yet, right? So can you maybe differentiate between those two little different concepts of bridges?
There's definitely like a legal concern here in terms of running a centralized bridge versus running a decentralized bridge operator. So when you have a centralized bridge, you basically are trusting the person that you're transferring the funds to. You transfer to a given address, you can like emit an event, or you have another process that's listening to events or like the incoming transactions to that address. And basically you have like a memo field or something like that, so that then you can like you have another account on the other chain and basically like transferring the same like the tokens that the person desires to the destination account. Or you create ERC20 token representations of BTC if you're not having like the same token standard, like BTC and ERC20 tokens. Or the same with Ether and wrapped Ethereum, for example, because like Ether is not ERC20 token compatible. That's why we have like wrapped Ether. So that's kind of like the current landscape, and the benefit of running a decentralized bridge is it's the same consensus mechanism, and the same validator said that it's like actually securing the network through its staking token that is also running this bridge, and thus securing this like routing mechanism between the two chains, so that then you have what's really important here. It's like slashing for like you don't want to double spend transactions across chain, and that's what IBC does very well. And so you don't want to replicate the same things on a bridge that relies on certain like non-fast finality.
Yeah, and I also talked to Zeki Manian. I think he's also a good friend and fellow Cosmo core developer.
Yeah.
Yours, and he differentiates he called this the bridge spectrum or something like that, where you have IBC, ape without fear, and then you have centralized bridges on the other end, right, where you have to trust basically also in the end of the day a custodian, right? I mean, some bridges also have and literally hold your keys. Yeah.
So there's like even for IBC, there's I'm not sure if Saki mentioned this, but there's even a trusted IBC component that you can basically do this across like even IBC chains. So like, for example, you can have, it's called like the solo machine client, that you basically run any process that can communicate, any off-chain process that can communicate with a chain. For example, if you want to communicate IoT devices, that's one specific use case, or phones, or anything that can hold a private key. So then you can hold the keys for an account that you hold in another chain, and then you can transfer tokens in a reputation-based fashion. So like imagine you have like an Ethereum account, and we don't have this bridge live yet, but you can have an Ethereum account and deploy a solo machine client that basically receives tokens or ERC20 tokens to this address, and you deploy a solo machine client that basically runs a process of listening to these events and then doing like ICS token transfers through IBC to like the destination chain. So it's really possible already to deploy, like have a trusted or reputation-based bridge. The thing is, like, I think like no one wants to bear the legal
risks and
risks. That's one thing, but there's we know people that have been using it for purposes other than just like relaying tokens, as I mentioned, like IoT devices or something.
So now that IBC is live for 4 months, 5 months, I think it was launched on February 18th of this year. And especially now with osmosis, we've seen it more or less being stress tested also under real world circumstances, right? How would you say is IBC now? Is it as good as you envisioned it years ago? Do you think it could be better now? Is there still work to improve it, or how complete do you think IBC is? How great is it in your opinion?
IBC, I think IBC is great. What we need more is like IBC applications or IBC modules that can create additional functionalities other than just like token transfers, and that's what we're building with Tharsis and Ethermint in particular. Mm-hmm. So like we're working currently on the specification to be able to transfer ERC20 tokens between like 2 different EVM chains running on Cosmos, or even calling like being for a non-EVM chain like the Cosmos Hub or any other chain like Osmosis, be still able to scale and benefit from the composability of smart contracts by calling through IBC smart contracts on the Ethermint chain, and then getting the meaningful response that they can able to execute and unpack and be able to like communicate from one module to like the smart contract that are running on Ethermint. So then they're going to be able to scale horizontally through this application-specific chain that has EVM on top.
And as I was preparing for this conversation with you, I also figured out that Ethermint could potentially be the killer application for the Gravity bridge, but also for IBC. So it brings a lot of use cases for interoperable applications. But we can go into detail that in a second. First, I'm more interested to hear the origin story of Ethermint, because I read in the proposal that you guys pushed out, I think it's proposal 44, that Ethermint was actually started in 2016. So can you give a bit of context on the origin story, and then how did the project fell off, or what happened in the last 5 years?
Yeah. I think like in summary, it was like deprioritized because like the core team was focusing on launching the Cosmos Hub initially. So it started first of all as like an experiment for applications that could be deployed on top of Tendermint. So the initial Ethermint wasn't actually like a Cosmos chain. It was a Tendermint application that communicated to the consensus on the networking layer that Tendermint Core offers through AVCI. So it was like a standard application that communicated directly to Tendermint without any module or something like that. And then it only executed smart contracts through like a very basic JSON RPC, and then executed it on the state machine using the EVM state transition mechanism. So that was like the initial research project, and that was successful. In general, they achieved, like the initial vision was also to be able to bridge or like create a bridge, and that was what Peggy was for, the initial Gravity bridge before it was renamed, to also be able to bridge tokens to this Ethermint chain. And then what happened afterwards is, well, so there was an entirely research-focused project, and like it proved correctly that people were able to execute and deploy smart contracts back in the days on using Solidity on Tendermint, using fast finality and proof of stake, which was huge back in the days. And then there was this whole push for like Cosmos, like basically delivering all what Cosmos wrote on the white paper. So not only the Cosmos SDK, but also the governance mechanism, all the staking module, and all these framework for other chains to be able to build on top of Tendermint. And so that took a long time. And then after it was delayed for some time, all the engineers that were initially working on Tendermint were allocated on Ethermint, were allocated into the core SDK team to basically help ship faster. Interestingly, Jack Sampolin, who's also co-founder with Jack on Sommelier, he started working as the product manager for Ethermint back in the days. That was his initial role when he joined Cosmos. Same with Alex Bess, and they were both working together on as part of AIB on this project, and then basically they migrated fully into the Cosmos SDK. After that, there was some time that there wasn't any development, there wasn't any updates, and then there was a grant to basically migrate the whole Tendermint, Ethermint project into a Cosmos-based chain, basically migrating all these this Tendermint application into a Cosmos chain using an EVM module. And the first grant that changed, the first and the second grant that Chainscape received was basically to make it production ready and ready to be deployed. Unfortunately, for several reasons, that didn't happen. But we're hoping to deploy the final version production ready that is fully interoperable with IBC Ethermint chain.
And that is scheduled for Q4 this year, or?
Yeah, we're aiming for Q4 this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about the current stage and the product and everything in a second. But first, can you give some examples of use cases, tangible use cases? Because I'm not very technical. My audience, I know, is not very technical. Some of them, I'm sure, but the majority not. So can you give a bit of some tangible use cases for end users that Ethermint could enable if it's production ready?
Yes. So the initial vision, the initial value proposition about this Ethermint chain was basically deploy an EVM chain that fully supports smart contract use cases like ERC20s, NFTs, etc. In general, smart contract the same way that you would deploy in Ethereum using the same tools, but with fast finality and proof of stake. So fast finality first would enable more business-oriented cases that require the fast finality and not having to wait for this confirmation time for transactions to be actually included in a block, and also to migrate fully to proof of stake. So that was the initial version for a production-ready and the initial value proposition for the chain. Unfortunately, now that because it's been taking so long, there are already chains that provide this functionality, like full EVM compatibility with fast finality and proof of stake. So the value proposition that we're migrating to is how do we build a network of EVM chains that are able to benefit and that we're through IBC and able to access liquidity not only from its own environment that it's just like the EVM, but from other sources of liquidity like through IBC, for example, like the Cosmos Hub, Osmosis, so ERC20 tokens will be able to be swapped and trade in Osmosis. You'll be able to LP on Osmosis and other dexes like the Gravity dex that's going to be deployed on the hub. So that's one particular use case around DeFi, like having greater access to liquidity through the interoperability component of IBC that we're building, and also be able to interact directly with Ethereum through the Gravity bridge. And finally, there's this whole concept of how do you, now that you have IBC that is able to allow you to communicate smart contracts in different chains, how do you scale that and are able to build a specification that basically enables you to do cross-chain smart contract execution, but with different virtual machines? So for example, you have Cosmos WASM on Terra that allows you to build smart contracts in WASM. How are you able to make them interoperate with smart contracts that are written in Solidity and that are deployed on Ethermint? So that's, I think, an interesting use case, and not only between WASM smart contracts, but also between Solidity smart contracts in one chain and Solidity contracts in another chain.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing right now, and this is one interesting use case that I've been seeing from different partners, is that there are a bunch of chains that want to enable EVM interoperability, but for their application-specific use case. So for example, some chain might want to deploy an NFT specific blockchain. So like deploy an, say, NFT module, build their NFTs as an within the SDK, but they also want to scale and benefit from composability. They want also developers to deploy their ERC 721 tokens for the through the smart contracts, and they want to deploy, like they want to have an EVM that supports that use case. So they want to have the EVM on top of their chain to be able to exclusively focus on NFT use cases. So you'll be able to build EVM application-specific blockchains on Cosmos and interoperate with other EVMs that are running. So that's a really interesting use case that I see spinning up in the next year.
Yeah, and I think in general, it also helps to decongest Ethereum itself, right? Because I think it still takes a while for ETH2 to fully ship. And that's why also maybe we've seen the success of Polygon or something like BSC, right? Because people just were tired of paying $40, $50, $60 per transaction on Ethereum. So that came like a blessing, the launch of Polygon and BSC. But can you talk a little bit about so you already mentioned that you then created or co-founded Tharsis with your business partner, I think Akash, who is, as of my understanding, not related to the Akash Network project led by Greg Osuri. But can you talk about at what point did you then say, okay, I want to commit myself fully to finish Ethermint, to build a product, to launch a chain on Cosmos, and to get this done? When was that moment, and how did you get initially started?
So I was always interested in the concept of Ethermint and having like a full EVM compatible chain on proof of stake with fast finality. The initial, like the initial vision for Ethermint. It's actually funny because like Akash and I, Akash was a co-founder of Blockchain at Berkeley. This student organization from Berkeley. Then we worked on a consulting project for one of their clients, and we were actually like, and we're building some smart contracts that required fast finality. And I remember talking with Sunny and with the rest of the Cosmos team back in the days, and they telling me back in 2017, oh, we have Ethermint, but it's not production ready. So that's the main reason why we moved to like a proof of authority model using Ethereum. But it would have been super cool to just like launch back in the days, like an Ethermint chain that would support this use case. And I think we wouldn't be talking today about Polygon or any other, or like probably yes, but like they wouldn't have the same traction that they have right now if Ethermint had launched back in say 2018 or even 2019 before all these other EVM chains were launched. So just imagine the alternative world where that had happened, and like Ethermint had been launched for like 2 years ago, and I think right now what makes me excited about is that all this infrastructure and all these EVM components that we're building on Cosmos are also going to be benefiting the rest of the Cosmos ecosystem. The hub will benefit the Cosmos DEX that's deployed on the hub. It's going to benefit immensely from having ERC20 tokens and scaling using proof of stake and fast finality. And I think a lot of business partners, businesses, are looking forward to also deploy their research projects on a fast finality chain that is fully modular using Tendermint and Cosmos.
Awesome, yeah. And so where do we currently stand? I mean, this proposal I think was passed was it April or May, something like that.
Yeah.
It contains like 4 stages, 4 milestones.
Yeah.
The last one is the mainnet launch, obviously, which is I think scheduled, like we said earlier, to go live in Q4. What is the current timeline? Where do you stand with the product? How far are you? And is there anything right now that is challenging, or anything special right now that you're working on?
Yeah. So for the past months, we've been basically addressing all the the engineering depth that the project had. We've been working towards stabilizing the EVM module, documenting all the decisions that we've made, making the JSON RPC service that enables us to communicate with Web3 and all the Ethereum tooling more robust. We've been implementing more API namespaces from Ethereum that will enable us to also be compatible with more projects in the Ethereum space. So that's what we've been working mostly on the chain side. Also, in terms of like dependencies, we've of course migrated to like the latest Cosmos SDK version that fully supports IBC, and we're building like these interesting use cases around IBC as a separate research oriented project. And we're also currently implementing a SDK native implementation of the EIP 1559 standards, which introduces the new fee model that's going to be introduced in the next few weeks in Ethereum. So for all the other chains, we've already been talking with chains in the ecosystem that might be interested in eventually like implementing this for their own chains, and eventually like upstreaming these features into the SDK for everyone to use. So like so that's where we're currently standing. We're fixing and the challenges. The main challenges we face is regards to like parsing the Tendermint structure. So like Tendermint has a given block header and given transaction format, whereas like Ethereum has a completely different one. And of course, the JSON RPC and all these Ethereum tooling expect the Ethereum formatted structures and types. So like there's been some challenge in returning those and returning the expected things. All the smart contract deployment tool works. There are a few minor bugs that are a bit inconsistent with what Ethereum expects, especially in the sense of the reverting the state once a transaction has been reverted on the EVM. So that has been the main challenge, I think, like all the compatibility with the Ethereum and Tendermint or Cosmos types on unexpected state.
So can we go back a second to that EIP 1559 equivalent that you just said? Because I talked to Ethan a couple of days ago, and also to Zaki, and they both talked about it briefly. And then a lot of people asked me like, well, is that coming on Atom for Cosmos, on the Cosmos Hub? So can you go a bit deeper into how exactly this fee model would look like? Is there also like a base fee that then gets burned in order to create more scarcity and efficiency, or how is it potentially going to be designed?
Yeah, so it's implemented in the same way that Ethereum implemented. Basically, as you said, it's the same specification. The main difference is because the Ethereum block header doesn't have the base fee. The Tendermint header doesn't have the base fee field within the header. Then we have to like have some workarounds to be able to store the parent base fee, and also be able to store the block gas used for the parent header. And so like we had to introduce some workarounds to be able to make it compatible. but I think right now we're pretty close to merging it in. We have a PR that's that it's targeted to the main branch in our repository that's going to be introducing this feature for specifically the EVM component. We're planning on extending this to fully support either as a module within Cosmos SDK or as a separate library that can eventually support like other other transactions other than the EVM transactions that we support. So that's like the second step. We already support that for our EVM internal transactions that we support on Ethermint, and we're gonna extend it to support like all the other Cosmos transactions as well.
Very, very interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
And so how does Ethermint fit in the whole Cosmos ecosystem? I think, as of my understanding at least, it's going to be a Cosmos-based chain that is compatible to Ethereum virtual machine through Gravity Bridge. It also natively implements IBC. It will also have its own coin. Can you talk about how it fits also to something like, for example, Amaris or Osmosis? Is there also going to be shared liquidity pools and those kind of things? And yeah, maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I see Ethermint like as an EVM hub within Cosmos. So because we're making this EVM module like as an open source project, we're gonna see like other chains that will use and benefit from this EVM component and deploy also application specific smart contracts to their chains. So Ethermint will be like the central piece of this EVM world that is going to be born in the Cosmos ecosystem. We're gonna be we don't have like as the core team Tharsis, we don't plan to implement any DEX or any smart contract that it's on the DeFi space, but more on like in the infrastructure space that is able to benefit Solidity developers and also Cosmos, the Cosmos ecosystem through IBC components as well. Or like implementing the Gravity Bridge to be able not only to bridge ERC20 tokens to Cosmos as Cosmos coins, but also ERC20 tokens as ERC20 tokens in the same representation within the Ethermint EVM. So there's like two different coin types there that need to be implemented. That one is the Cosmos and the other one is the ERC20 token format. And we're building the ladder for. We're going to build the ladder for the Gravity Bridge, and yeah, we'll be fully interoperable with all the other DEXs within the ecosystem. So really looking forward to collaboration with the Amaris team within Tendermint and the Osmosis team to be able to provide liquidity and make this token available for everyone to not only run smart contracts but be also available to provide liquidity for the different pools in the ecosystem.
Amazing. And I also saw that you tweeted about the Cronos chain, which is from Crypto.com.
Yes.
And that you guys have also been collaborating with their development team. Before we get into community questions, can you talk a little bit about what Cronos is and how Tharsis and Ethermint fits into that?
Yeah. So as Tharsis, we basically pick up the project that was we wanted to keep maintaining and shipping the project, and that's where we created the EVM, the governance proposal to the Cosmos Hub to basically fund our development for us to launch this Ethermint chain. So we've been working heads down on the engineering side to be able to execute on that, and we're making a lot of progress on that front. And basically, what happened here is, so the Crypto.com team had in their timeline for like about 2 years deploying an EVM compatible chain or like an EVM compatible component either within their chain or as a separate chain that was able to compete basically with Binance Smart Chain. So they saw the Ethermint project. They've been following the progress for the Ethermint project for a while, and then like they didn't build anything because it wasn't being production ready. There wasn't a dedicated team that was working on it full time, and so they basically reached out to us like, yo, we want to help you launch this sooner. So it's basically an engineering collaboration agreement in the sense that we're working on the same open source project. We're not building their chain at all. They're only providing engineering support to help us ship faster. And that's also going to be benefiting all the holders that are going to wait less time to execute on that. And we're going to be like most likely going to be like building interoperability components between Cronos and the Ethermint chain in the future once that's available. But their target user and their competition is basically targeting like being like a Binance Smart Chain as well. And that's kind of like their use case. And our use case is more like, how do we build like this hub that is fully decentralized and is able to interoperate not only within its own EVM, but also with other non-EVM chains as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. And speaking of benefiting the token holders, I saw that you commented on under the proposal. A lot of people were asking like, "Oh, is there an airdrop for Atom holders?" Because it was funded by the Atom community pool. So can you? What do you know about that? I mean, you're designing the whole thing, so I'm sure you know what's the current stage there. So what can you say about that? Is there going to be an Atom airdrop for Atom holders?
That's a great question. I can't give you more details because otherwise it wouldn't be like proper. But yes, there's gonna be till the year there's gonna be an airdrop. We don't know the exact details of how it's gonna look like eventually, or when is it gonna be like the time that we're gonna like decide. Okay, like here's gonna do their snapshot, and then we're gonna do the airdrop, or how we're gonna do the airdrop mechanism. If it's gonna be following the same mechanism that Osmosis implemented, or we're going to implement something like more complex, like a bonding curve or something like that, or any other sort of metrics within the IBC transactions, whatever. But we don't know any exact details yet. We haven't finalized the exact details for us to share yet. So if you want to follow more progress, follow us on Twitter, and like we'll be announcing their progress and in the engineering side, but also on the token economic side, so that the Atom holders will be benefited and will be properly informed about any announcements as well.
Sounds great. Yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, let's get into community questions. I always do this and ask people to drop questions on Twitter. And I got a lot of questions, also very good questions about the product and about also how Ethermint basically differentiates to other things, competitors, but also other bridge models. So I just picked a couple of questions here. We can go through them quickly, and I'm just going to read them out one by one. Some of the things you already answered, but just for the sake of answering the questions directly, we can go through them really quick. So first question is, there might be some confusion between Gravity Bridge and Ethermint. Can you please explain which one is better and what the differences are?
That's a really great question. There's like, first of all, there are two different infrastructure components. The Gravity Bridge is an interoperability component that is able to bridge tokens bridge tokens from Ethereum into Cosmos and vice versa. So in the same way that IBC works for Cosmos chains or any chain that runs finality chain using BFT, then the same Gravity bridge is doing the same in a trustless way, but for Ethereum or EVM chains on Cosmos. So the validator set is securing the bridge and is able to sign on events and relay those events through the orchestrator mechanism. On the other hand, Ethermint is an application-specific blockchain in Cosmos, so not a bridge, that has an EVM component on top. So you can deploy your smart contracts and use the same Ethereum tooling as you would if you were an Ethereum developer using Solidity or any other tooling that you might want to use. And it's going to be able to interoperate with other chains through IBC. So there are different components of the Cosmos stack. Ethermint is most likely going to be using the Gravity bridge to relay those ERC20 tokens from Ethereum into Ethermint, either into its Ethermint EVM component or into like the bank component that it's like basically how tokens are represented right now.
All right, next question. How is Ethermint going to position itself against Polygon and various other layer 2s?
I think that's a great question. So I think we're doing like really novel things, especially related to interoperability, in the sense that all the other chains are going to be benefiting from the interoperability components that we're going to build. I think as I mentioned you before, the initial value proposition of just having an EVM with fast finality doesn't apply anymore. Maybe in 2018 and 2019, but there's Polygon and all these L2s right now. But our core focus is going to be deploying Cosmos native features into the EVM and be able to interoperate smart contract executions between different EVMs and VMs as well, and between application-specific blockchains in Cosmos, like the Cosmos Hub, that don't have an EVM, so that they can still benefit from the interoperability and the composability that we're building through Ethermint. So, so I think that's the main difference, and also because we're Cosmos native and we're gonna be we're going long on the project on Cosmos. Akash and I have been working for a long time in the ecosystem, and we are also collaborating closely with other projects in the space, and we're also collaborating with the core teams in IBC and the Cosmos SDK, so that the whole community is going to benefit. And so that's more like the users within the Cosmos ecosystem. But for the Ethereum developers out there, one is the access to greater sources of liquidity through this interoperability component, and also be able to scale horizontally by just deploying their EVM. So like you choose the EVM that you want to specialize in. And Ethermint is going to be a general layer that is going to be providing security and other Cosmos interesting features, like to be able to benefit themselves in a way that Ethereum is not providing at the moment, and also be able to scale faster using like we're also building some interesting communication mechanism for the staking token to be used within smart contracts, the Cosmos coins and the staking token to be used as ERC20 within the EVM. So not only they will access an ecosystem within the EVM itself, they will be accessing the whole ecosystem as a whole through IBC and through the components that we're building for them. So they're not going to be constraining to just the EVM. They're going to be able to just like expand within the ecosystem, and also to Ethereum and other L2s as well.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think if I recall correctly, this is just on top of my head, I think you also mentioned in the proposal, in the governance thread and discussions, that there's already some partners, not sure if that's within crypto or outside of crypto, that are really keen to use Ethermint from day one and bring hundreds of thousands of users. Is there something you could talk about, or?
Yeah, so we're currently working with a few partners that have been interested for a long time in basically the description of like the value proposition that I just mentioned. So it's basically projects that haven't been able to scale to serve their users on Ethereum, basically either because of the fees or the access to liquidity. So Ethermint is great for them to build their use case and serve their users in the end. I can't name the exact project, but it's gonna be announced in the future once we get closer to launch.
Nice. And next question, will other Cosmos chains be able to talk to Ethermint over IBC?
Yes, they will. So we're building, as I mentioned, interoperability components for IBC that will enable ERC20 tokens from Ethermint to be provided to other Cosmos chains, and also for other Cosmos chains to be able to execute smart contracts and to talk to smart contracts through IBC and be able to like send and receive packets to them.
All right, and sticking to comparing it with Ethereum, will Ethermint work with existing Ethereum accounts and MetaMask?
Yes, it works out of the box already with Ethereum accounts and MetaMask. The main challenge though is how to create the same structure for MetaMask and the Cosmos transaction to work in the same way. So like it's basically something around the HD path. So we've been trying to test the Cosmos Ledger app, but it's for security reasons it's blocked for the coin type that Ethereum uses. So either we'll have to like figure out like launch without the support or build our own application for the ledger or like switch the coin type. We're still figuring out those things, but the short answer is yes, it works. It works with MetaMask and it will work as long as like it has always worked with the deployment of smart contracts, and you can use Remix and other inspection tools to interact with your smart contracts, debug your smart contracts in the same way that you would on Ethereum as well.
And then there's a very, very good question, which is, what's the core differences between Ethermint and ETH 2.0? And maybe you can also share your thoughts on the timeline of ETH 2.0. I mean, you have been very deeply involved in a lot of things. I think also previously you did things at Ethereum, so you probably know the challenges of implementing or shifting from proof of work to proof of stake on the Ethereum side. So what do you think? What are your thoughts on ETH 2.0 and how does it differentiate to Ethermint? And also, could it potentially make Ethermint one day completely obsolete?
This is a great question. So we're planning to be we're now focusing on ETH1 because ETH1 is where all the projects are and where all the use cases are at the moment. But yeah, this as long as ETH2 is the same way EVM compatible, we might also create a different module that it's not going to be just the EVM module that it's compatible with ETH1, but we might create a different module that is compatible with ETH2. So like an EVM2 module that is able to fully support the ETH2 use cases, or we might extend the JSON RPC layer to be fully compatible with JSON RPC. So in that regard, it won't be obsolete. I think there's still a high narrative, like a really interesting narrative for a finality chain that runs on that has the EVM component and plus the interoperability features that we're building on top. So yeah, in that regard, I don't think Ethermint will be obsolete, because we're expanding beyond just Ethermint. We're expanding the horizons of the EVMs to not only Cosmos but also to Ethereum, and to potentially ETH2 will like in the same way like Gravity will also be eventually deployed to ETH2, and we'll also have to adapt in order to bring all the liquidity from ETH2. So in that regard, no, we won't be. I don't think it will become obsolete at all.
Yeah, I also think for another reason, because simply like everything that's in Cosmos already has, and especially right now in the past couple of months, is gaining a lot of adoption, right? And so that ecosystem on the Cosmos side is also growing, which would mean that from the Ethereum side, it would also make sense to be connected to that ecosystem through something like Ethermint. So I think Cosmos is a serious ecosystem that many people don't really have on their radar yet. But I think eventually it's gonna, especially with the mainstream adoption of IBC and then soon also the Gravity Bridge, it will be inevitable that Cosmos gains even more adoption and more hype, and then you see more and more people, like you saw recently with Polygon and BSC, right? They got so much hype because then, it's everybody gets interested in it, and then the coin price goes up as well at the same time, and then everybody gets even more interested in it. So I think eventually that's something that Cosmos still has ahead. And I mean, I've done a lot of research, especially in the last couple of weeks, and talked to so many people there, and it's really amazing what you guys are all building and how committed and dedicated and also experienced you guys are. I think you've also previously been at Tendermint, right? So you kind of like all connected somehow for many years, the challenges, the flaws, the benefits of the technology, and also in the broader landscape of the crypto industry as a whole. Last question from actually myself just came up because I thought about it when I read through the proposal again, that Zaki also commented this, that he suggests a rebrand. Is that something that you guys have also in planning, or are you going to stick with Ethermint as a name and as a brand?
It's a great question that we're actively considering. So the main challenge right now is we don't hold the trademark for the Ethermint brand. That was already disclosed on the proposal. Like if you go to the forum, there's some details about it. But yeah, we don't hold the trademark for the Ethermint brand. So it's something that we're considering, but we will have to decide before launch. I think so in some way, the narrative of the Ethermint chain, as I mentioned, like the initial value proposition doesn't apply anymore. But in the same way, it's been a long-standing project that has already already has the attention, and like the OGs in crypto already know about the project and have some familiarity with it. So it's like pros and cons of keeping the name or rebranding completely. Yeah. So we'll have to decide on which options we go for, but I'm not leaning for one or the other at the moment. It's something that we need to explore and consult with different experts outside the like more in like a legal side as well.
Yeah, and I guess also when you guys come closer to the launch, it makes more sense to think about those things. But yeah, anyways, that was really valuable, the whole conversation we had. Thank you so much for your time and everything, and all the insights and updates. What would you say now for somebody who listened to the whole video and made it to this point, when you think like, man, I want to stay up to date with everything that Federico is doing with Ethermint? What is the best way for them to stay up to date?
Yeah, well, you can follow Tharsis Finance on Twitter, and that's our company name and official account. And you can follow me and Akash Khosla to follow up on progress on the project, and we'll keep you up to date on anything regarding the project. Also, the announcement on the token economics, partnerships, engineering updates, everything that you will need to know to be fully up to date with the project. And thanks for listening if you've made it to the last bit of the video.
Yeah, and also I think the airdrop is super important.
Yeah, super
updates
important
regarding the airdrop, and yeah, I think the way Osmosis did it was pretty cool, and also we have seen that even though it was super generous in the sense that everybody got it, even if you just held Atom, I think still showed that this thing it worked, right? And the price discovery was incredible in the first couple of days and weeks when it was launched. So maybe something for you guys to consider, because I know the Atom holders are really strong fundamental believers in the project, and I think it makes sense to also to give them something in return, some benefits, as we've seen now with many projects. Actually, I think SIFChain did an airdrop, Regen Network, Osmosis, Juno, right? They all did amazing airdrops. So yeah, thank you again so much for your time. I'll link all the channels and your Twitter and everything under this video as well. Yeah, we'll keep in touch. I'm also
Thank you so much,
excited to keep track of the project, and yeah, all the best, man.
Thank you so much.